This is one thing a lot of people have been saying. Oh, you come out and just say it, Ross. Well, fuck you. I'm not going to say it.
What the hell is going on, guys? The big, giant, buried UFO that Ross Coulthart has teased and hinted at for years now. But he's been pretty clear that he isn't going to tell us any more than that. Well, someone else has just entered the scene, and that is MoneyPenny. And not only does she claim to know where it is, she is going to tell us.
Revealing where a giant UFO, a huge giant UFO, is underneath a massive high security building. And now I have the evidence.
And she has. Now, a lot of you guys know I covered this story a while ago. We did about 3 videos diving into possible locations based on the hints that Ross had given on where this UFO could be. This place allegedly is a joint facility that has to do with the NSA. Everyone knows about Pine Gap, some kind of geospatial detection communications system. And the location that this lady has given us is none of those. In fact, it's not even in Australia. So I'm excited to follow up on this and dive in again, because this is the one big story that just keeps on coming back, because it really could mean disclosure. If someone can find and verify this somehow, I mean, that's it. So thank you all for being here. If you're new, please consider subscribing. And if you're not new, strap in, because we're about to go find the big, giant, buried UFO.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
I think the best place to start would be to just watch the first video that she's posted. And since then, this is about 8 hours ago now that she posted this video. We'll watch that, and then we'll kind of scroll back up to where we're at now, and we'll kind of stop off along the way. We'll look at Google Maps, we'll take a look at this place, and I'll give you guys some thoughts along the way.
Hi, this is MoneyPenny. This is a message to Ross Coulthart. You have 3 hours from now to contact me, and you have my contact details, we've spoken before, to be able to stop me revealing where a giant UFO, a huge giant UFO, is underneath a massive high security building. And now I have the evidence, and I'm going to release it in 3 hours' time, unless you contact me and tell me there is a very important national security issue that would stop me. Because I believe, in the interests of disclosure and of everybody who has been struggling with deception and secrets for far too long, that we have a right to know this. You told us about it more than 2 years ago. It's about time people knew the truth. 3 hours, counting. Speak to you soon, Ross.
So, again, like I said, I don't know this lady. The first line that she comes out with sounds kind of like a James Bond villain. You know, like, you've got 3 hours to stop me, or I'm going to drop a ontological nuke on the world. Seems kind of Bond villainy. I'm judging this person's character based on a 1 minute video. But at the end of the video, you can see it seems like her interests are in the right place, though. You know, she thinks she has information. We'll want disclosure. She seems like she's prepared to bring it. So fair play to her. I also would say, in fairness, that 3 hours is probably a little bit unfair. Now, obviously, I want this information out. Who doesn't? But if she's going to give someone the time to respond, especially in a different time zone, even without time zones, I think 3 hours is unfair. It probably should have been 24, because Ross could be on a plane. What if he's on a 7-hour flight? You know what I mean? Anyway, that doesn't really matter. But let's take a look and just kind of scroll through her feed and what's happened, because she's released another longer video giving us some more details, as well as a few other things. So here she is just kind of reiterating her last video. She says some high-profile commentators have pointed out that Ross is on Australian time, probably asleep. So I need guidance on extending the deadline, and I'm willing to put it to a public vote. So kind of echoing what I just said there. And she actually did a poll. And obviously, most people, as you would expect, said, fuck that, drop the info. But you know, I personally think this isn't really something that like should be going to a poll. Like, look, if you've got the information, you want to drop it, just do it. Let's not play games here, you know? You don't need to leave it up to the X audience, who are probably 70% bots anyway. I think just do it. She then hinted at that this photo is related to this location, which we'll get to. I won't really bother going into that photo. It's a pilot. And this is where she kind of dropped the first bomb. So here we have a document, which is for the Inspector General's Office, Department of Defense, for the U.S. Strategic Command Facility construction project. Okay. And she's alleging that this U.S. Strategic Command Facility is basically the location. And her reasoning for that is this page here. And you can see that on August the 21st, 2015, it says modification R40368, which related to challenges with the progressive collapse design, increased the contract value by almost $700,000 and increased the period of performance by 29 days. So basically, there was this one point on this certain date where all of a sudden, the Strategic Command construction project were like, we need a lot more money, and we've got a few complications here, and that's why we need the money. Now, why this is interesting is because she's obviously highlighted here in blue that a 750-foot triangular UFO was reported within the perimeter of this base on the same day, right? Now, she didn't include that UFO report though, but I've got it, so I'll show it to you in just a second. But first, let's just actually take a look at this place, right? So the Strategic Command Office is in Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, which is interesting, right? Because at least for me, I consider myself like relatively well-versed in this stuff. I've never heard this place come into the conversation before. So when we search it on Google Earth and we zoom in here, this is Offutt Air Force Base. Looks like a pretty, normal area. This area here, though, specifically, is the Strategic Command Office. Now, you can see that if we just jump back over here quickly, she did circle this for us. So you can see here, so this is Offutt Air Force Base and the United States Strategic Command Center. So again, just to be clear, there's Offutt Air Force Base, and if we zoom in to where she circled on her post, you can see here we have the United States Strategic Command Center. Now, you saw that I just searched this plane on Google Earth right now, and we get this image, which is a construction site. And you can see there's a lot of things. It's quite a big construction site. And this is the area that she's referencing. Now, I don't understand why it's like this, because when you click the historical imaging here, it brings us to 2025, and this is actually what it looks like now. Okay, it's finished. This isn't a construction site anymore. It's finished being built, and it has been for a long time. If we just kind of go back a few years, you can see that. So that's kind of interesting, and we're going to keep going back further in the years in a moment. But first, let's just take a look at the actual UFO sighting that she referenced. So the 21st of August, 2015, reference number 121393 on New Fork. So if we jump over to the New Fork sighting, 121393, we can see this occurred on the 21st of August, 2015. It was reported the following day, observed for 3 minutes by one person only, which is kind of crazy when we're talking about a 700-foot triangle in the sky it wasn't far away from midnight, but still, you would think maybe more than one person would see that. But anyway, let's keep going. Shape, triangle. Characteristics, aura or haze around the object. Large triangular shaped object, estimated to be 500 to 750 feet across. Gold colored, moving slowly, no sound. Item was first sighted while on Offutt Air Force Base, looking west, at an approximate altitude of 2,000 feet at a distance of approximately 2 miles from Offutt. It was first considered a possible slow-moving aircraft in the traffic pattern. Upon departing Offutt and proceeding west on Coulthart Road, the item was witnessed moving at approximately 50 to 70 knots towards the south by southwest. While stopped on the Cape Hart Crook Road Bridge, the object continued south-southwest at the constant speed, still maintaining its mid-level brightness of a gold color, until it quickly faded out as it entered low-level clouds. It then hovered there for approximately 1 minute until it suddenly winked out. The object never appeared to make any sound, with no traffic in the vicinity and no sound could be heard. And this was posted again to this website on the 27th. A couple of interesting things there. Firstly, that this thing was apparently seen over the perimeter of Offutt Air Force Base. So that's how I'm reading this. She says 2 miles from Offutt, but at the start, it was first sighted on Offutt Air Force Base. Now, I would assume that this base is more than 2 miles in its perimeter. I mean, we can probably actually gauge that pretty quickly. Measure distance. Let's go from like the edge of this runway to here. Kilometers. It's 5.5 kilometers, or if we put it into freedom units, 2.8 miles, nearly 3 miles. So the fact that this thing could have been over the base and moved, perhaps just off the base or something like that, it's not out of the question, in my opinion. The other interesting thing was the gold color. Now, this is something that's in the classic film pictures, I think taken in 1992 in Mexico by someone named, I think it's Carlos Diaz. I'll put them up on the screen. I've showed them on the channel before. Some really interesting still photos, and not the only time or case that we've heard about craft giving off this sort of halogen deep orange glow. We've heard plenty of times that these craft look like they're roiling like the surface of the sun, or that the skin of the craft seems like it is alive. That's not necessarily exactly how this New Fork UFO sighting describes it, but the gold color, does sound similar, and it is interesting. So let's jump back to the map just for a sec, right? Like I said, this allegedly happened in 2015. So let's jump back to 2015. Again, I don't know why when you search this place, it appears like it doesn't give you the most recent photograph. We're in 2020 now, 2019, 2018, 2017. This looks like the photo we got at the start, actually. It looks like it gave us, when you search this on Google Earth, it looks like you get the 2017 shot. Why that would be, I have no idea. 2016, still in a lot of construction going on. And, okay, apparently there's no 2015 photo. This is 2014, though. And I guess that makes sense when we look at her post. This thing was mid-construction, and it was in 2015 that they decided that for some reason, they need about another $1 million. Honestly, though, very interesting that there is no picture for 2015. There's a picture for every single other year. So that's something to consider. Let's measure what 750 feet might look like as a triangle. I'm just going to do a triangle straight over the top that is like 750 each way. Here, and that must be about the same. We go to 1500, probably something like that, I would say. So, I mean, it did say 500 to 750 foot, so he maybe could be overshooting that. And I think it's important to remember, and I've said this in the other videos when we're looking at these Google Map images of places that could be built over this UFO, that if this thing is in the ground, which it sounds like it is, the building doesn't necessarily need to cover the whole thing, or it doesn't even need to be the same shape, right? It just needs to be a facility to protect it while what is important is below the ground, which could essentially be any shape it wants to be, right? The building doesn't need to match at all. The building is essentially like just a security gate for it. So let's jump back over to MoneyPenny and take a look, because she's posted more since then. So this is the person that we saw earlier, Jarvis Jeans Offutt, who the base was named after. I think he was a World War I soldier by the looks of it. MoneyPenny is saying, to everyone saying it's not in the USA, you might as well bother to watch the full videos. Otherwise, there is little point me doing all the work for you. Now, I think it's totally worth considering that Ross Coulthart could have just flat out said it's not in the United States, because he's already saying something pretty like, you know, he's already a bit of a bomb, what he's saying, right? That there's a giant UFO buried under a building somewhere that people know about. Like, to say that is all, I mean, look at the storm it created by just saying that. Perhaps by saying it's not in the USA is a way for him to just kind of protect himself, to keep the heat off him, because it is in the USA. And he said something that's probably pushing the limit of what he can say, and maybe that was a bit of a defense mechanism. I don't know. I'm just purely speculating there, trying to play devil's advocate a little bit. But with what MoneyPenny has said here, in that, you know, there's no point in me doing all the work for you, a lot of the work she has done is with ChatGPT. And a lot of people are criticizing her for that. And I can understand that. I think it's probably important to say that, like, ChatGPT, it's not like she's asking ChatGPT is the UFO buried under Offutt Air Force Base? Okay, like obviously ChatGPT is going to say, no, you're a tinfoil retard. Okay, obviously. That's not what ChatGPT is good for. ChatGPT is a great research tool. ChatGPT is a great way to find out about the hiccups and the changes in the construction process of Offutt Air Force Base. And I think that is how she has used ChatGPT to try and connect some of these dots. So, I don't know if all of the criticism is fair, but in her initial video, she did say that she has evidence. I think maybe evidence is a little bit of a stretch, but I do think she has connected some very interesting dots, but I will save my full conclusion to the end. So this is another video that she's uploaded. This is 4 minutes 20. So we'll watch this whole thing, and then we'll take a look at the last couple of things she's posted, and then I'll give you my verdict on what I think's going on here.
Good afternoon. I'm MoneyPenny, and what you're about to hear is the result of a few days of joint investigative research work with my colleague ChatGPT-5. Together, we believe we have identified the one US military building most likely to be concealing a massive UFO, possibly mentioned by Ross Coulthart. Here's what we know. Our lead took us to Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska, headquarters of the US Strategic Command.
Curious to know what her lead was as well, by the way. She's not really clear on how she came onto this.
For decades, this was Strategic Air Command's home, the command center for every American nuclear bomber and missile. Then, in 2012, construction began on something new, the Command and Control Facility, known as C2F. At first glance, it's just a high-security headquarters, but the facts are extraordinary. It is built on what was once the Warrior 9 golf course, a 916,000 square foot facility costing a staggering $1.3 billion, more per square foot than the Pentagon. Documents from the Department of Defense Inspector General reveal some very strange anomalies about underground space beyond the original plans, and underground fire, flooding incidents, costly delays, electromagnetic protection, and it is built a building within a building with a particular electromagnetic shield, normally reserved for the most secretive nuclear bunkers. In August 2015, right in the middle of the construction, a witness in Bellevue, inside Offutt's own perimeter, reported a silent, triangular craft estimated 750 feet across, the size perfectly matching the footprint of the building rising around it. And to that, its strange sighting, a crown jewel command node placed in a floodplain where 1/3 of the base went underwater in 2019. And the strict access rules meaning that many of the staff upstairs are never allowed to see the lower levels. Of course, I can't tell with absolute certainty that this is the object. And there are many military buildings across the US to look at. But there are some very unique and strange things, even above what I've said, that put this pretty high on the list. Let's look at the exact date of that UFO sighting, which has a reference under the new form code, whatever it is. 21st of August 2015 was the day that this massive 800-foot, possibly triangular UFO was spotted and reported. And on that same date, in the notes, the official notes that go to the US government about a sudden change in plans and a massive demand for more money, they went in on that day. So on the day the UFO is seen, reported even, a massive building project that's been going on for a long time changes and demands more money. There is much more to this. And obviously, I can hear you saying, but Ross Coulthart said it wasn't in the United States. Well, quite frankly, having watched Jay interview Ross Coulthart, I think he was possibly a little bit squibbly when he said it. He looks drunk as a skunk, I think. Anyway, the point being is, even if Ross Coulthart was referring to a destination in Australia, I think it's Exmouth or something, it's quite possible, because he uses plurals about buildings built around objects, that there is more than one example of the United States having built buildings around giant UFOs. Or indeed, maybe this UFO that Ross saw not in the United States flew over from Australia. Who knows? Ross was a little bit piddly when he said so. But I'll tell you something. There is a very odd, underground, massive facility built under this place in Nebraska, which is exactly the right size to host a giant UFO that has been spotted and reported on the same day that all the construction and all the finance changed. And a building that is more expensive than the Pentagon has got to have some secrets, don't you think?
She's definitely got this like Bond villain way of delivering her message. Like, I don't know, I can't really, and I don't mean that in like a negative way. She could be a really nice lady. She probably is. But there's something about the way she's like putting this out there. It's like she is like, yeah, like she thinks she's got like a knowledge nuke and to drop on the world. And, you know, if this is true, I guess it is, but it is just a theory, I think. I don't think she actually has evidence like she's sort of suggested in the first video. She says this place used to be a golf course. So let's take a look back. If we keep winding back the clock here, if we go in 2013, 2012. So here we can see it looks like between 2012 and 2013, this place went from just rural open land. It looks like it was still part of Offutt Air Force Base, it looks like, at this point in time. So let's just keep going back, I guess, and just see. It seems like this, prior to this was just, yeah, a golf course. I mean, it doesn't really look like a golf. Oh yeah, kind of. Oh yeah, it does. Yeah. So this place was a golf course. She says that this was the most expensive land to acquire, more expensive than the Pentagon. Maybe this wasn't part of Offutt Air Force Base at the time and they had to purchase this. I don't know. You know, I don't know. Maybe that could just be due to inflation. I don't really know if, again, that is directly correlating data to this being a super important place. The electromagnetic comments were interesting, though. She says that based on these documents, that there is a building within a building under the ground and it has some kind of electromagnetic shielding. Now, if that is the case, I think that is a very interesting point because, as we know, electromagnetic and, you know, gravity affecting technology seems to be the way that these craft operate. Okay, they operate silently, and the only way to do that is with some kind of propulsion that is not in the mainstream, that is not known about, and that is likely probably similar to what Michael Herrera talks about, in that the craft just gave this audible hum, the exact same kind of detail that Jonathan Weygant talked about in his story about coming upon a craft in Peru in 1997. It just gave this soft, audible guitar amp like hum. And that makes a lot of sense. When a lot of people see these craft in the Phoenix lights, we always hear that they are basically dead silent. So there's obviously some kind of propulsion that we don't know about. I think the coincidence of the dates is very interesting. Like, and it could be coincidence number 8,561, but it probably isn't. Does that mean that they're connected? I don't know. But the fact that a giant triangle was sighted over this base the same day that there was a massive push for money, that is very interesting. So is the electromagnetic shielding. And what's also interesting, though, and probably most interesting to me, is that these giant triangular crafts over an American Air Force base. I don't think that is like an invasion. I think that is known technology. That is an expected arrival. That is a visitor that you were expecting. You know, do you understand what I'm saying? This is either their technology they already had. This is either a transfer of a ship from A to B. I don't think this is like a UFO that just kind of landed there and then they suddenly decided to build over it. That doesn't really make sense with this data to me. But anyway, let's keep scrolling. She's posted a few more things. She's got this little slideshow here, which only goes for about a minute. So we'll take a listen to this.
This is a short presentation with some references and research. This is a disclaimer to say I am British and I'm unaided in doing this. And these are the clues that Ross Coulthart has already given away. There is only so much one person can do in a short space of time, so obviously I did use ChatGPT-5, which was pretty obstructive and tried to stop me. As I will demonstrate, it told me at the beginning that UFOs do not exist and that I was pretty mad to even look at this. Yes.
I mean, obviously, like, if anyone's watching that, like, you don't understand that, please just, like, understand that quickly, because ChatGPT is just trained on a data set. It's not some like all-knowing magician that will reveal the truth if you ask it. It's trained on a set of data that is obviously based on what someone has deemed is knowledge that the public is allowed to know and knowledge that the public is not allowed to know. So expecting ChatGPT to reveal the secrets of the universe is just futile. So please, if you don't know that already, now you do. Spread the word.
Well, we wonder who controls all these AIs. Take a look at this in your own time, together with the other information I've put out. It may be that this particular example is not the same one that Ross Coulthart was referring to. But if the United States have decided they can build secure electromagnetic blocking protective facilities around one giant UFO, possibly in Australia, then it's not such a large jump to see that they've probably done it in other countries, and particularly in their own country. That is something I don't know, but I certainly do know it's a bit of a massive coincidence that there was a report of a ginormous 750, 800-foot triangular UFO on a base which the same day reported a huge extension to a building project suddenly requiring millions more.
Like she says millions more there. I mean, I don't know if there's more that she hasn't sort of put out, or if like she hasn't linked this document that she showed earlier, and that wasn't millions, it was under 1 million. So I don't know if she's kind of like stretching truths here. But she did say, and she kind of referenced it twice, so maybe we'll just take a quick look at it. She said how it may not be the same one that Ross Coulthart is referencing, right? And that she sort of thinks that the one in Australia could be Exmouth, which maybe she's saying this because that's the one I sort of said is where I think it is in my very first video. However, since I'll show you Exmouth and I'll show you why I thought that. But the reason why I don't think this anymore, okay, so this is Exmouth military base, right? This is a naval communication station. And I guess the reason why I've always thought it was interesting is because look at the shape of it, right? And on each of these corners, you can kind of look at the shadow, okay? On each of these corners, you have a super tall tower. And from my understanding, this is like a ultra low frequency communication station to submarines all around the world. Like this thing can transmit signals to anywhere very quickly, and it's very powerful. But because of its interesting shape from above and its kind of obscurity and where it is in Australia, I was like, this thing's pretty like remote, kind of random, weird shape. Maybe this is it. And also in Ross Coulthart's book, In Plain Sight, there is that UFO sighting at Exmouth, which is right here, okay? And this is a joint US-Australian controlled base here. This is Harold Holt Communication Station. So, but the reason why I don't think this is it is because if this thing is, and it's quite obvious really, this thing is too close to the ocean, I think, to house something underground. And this is also why I kind of disagree with MoneyPenny a little bit, because what she's talking about and connecting it to this UFO sighting, like I said, it suggests that this craft kind of has arrived. Maybe it landed, maybe it stopped working and they had to build over it. I don't know. I think maybe she's onto something, but the dots aren't fully connected yet. Because in Ross Coulthart's story, I think it's quite clear that this thing was like found. This is like an archaeological find, a discovery, a buried, something they came across deep under the ground that was like, wow, this is huge. How do we hide this? We're going to have to build over it. That's not really the story that's being told through what MoneyPenny is saying. What she is saying seems more like they decided they need to build an extension to house this massive craft that perhaps got moved from one place to another. I don't know. But I don't think it's this. I don't think it's Exmouth in Australia. I don't know where the giant UFO is buried. But I do think that Offutt Air Force Base, based on what she has said and this sighting, I do think it's a very interesting place. There's probably something to that. I don't know what it is. I don't think it is a craft that was found. I think, if anything, it's likely a place where they hide UFOs or something like that. If I had to guess, and if I had to give you an answer. She's posted a few more things. Let's keep scrolling through. Oh. Who is that young intellectual stallion on her feed? That's from the original video. I'll link that below if you want to go and check out the first video I did covering this story. She also said, interestingly, Google Maps appears to have just put a blur over the location I've disclosed. I've tried both Android and iPhone devices, and whilst I obviously may have some strange glitch here in England, it appears a bit odd, especially after an observant person pointed out the names of the roads around the base, like Looking Glass and other military UFO-related projects. That is interesting. Please keep me informed, guys, and thank you for your support. As for the trolls, well, it's wasted energy, guys, so feel free to continue. But remember, the more blocks you get, the worse your algorithm will be. Obviously, I looked at this on Google Earth and Google Maps just on my PC, and as you guys can see, nothing seems blocked. Other than the weird thing of when you search it, you don't seem to get the 2025 picture. You get the one from 2017, which is strange, but I don't know like what that could mean or how it could connect to anything. She's posted a link to her ChatGPT conversations and basically a kind of like a summary post here, which says, in summary, UFO disclosure. Military building more expensive than the Pentagon. Specialist electromagnetic and EMP pulse building within a building, underground skiff levels, and 24-hour security. 800-foot long triangular UFO reported on the base in Norfolk. On same date as the report, the US government report shows a significant additional multi-million dollars extension in budget was requested for a huge new extension to the construction project, substantial issues of flooding, fires, chaotic circumstances, and weird activities all in writing across decades. So again, based on just the things that she has posted, it's not 800 foot, it's 500 to 750. So it seems like she's adding another 50 foot onto the top end of the report, which I don't understand like why you would do that, because it's clearly there as 500 to 750, unless I'm getting something wrong. Like, not that that means you're all lying, but it's like, it doesn't really help your story. Like, just stick to the numbers. They're there, right? They're right there. It's not helping your case, is what I'm saying. This stuff here, specialist electromagnetic EMP pulse building within a building, is very interesting. How common is this stuff already, though, in deep underground military bases? I don't know. It could be very common. I'm sure they're very secure facilities. Probably something UAP GERB would be able to clarify if this is actually like an anomaly or something normal in these facilities. Underground skiff levels, I think that would probably be fairly normal. 24-hour security, I'm sure that's normal for an Air Force base as well. And here's the article from the US Stratcom military website, US Strategic Command. And this article is from 2018. New command and control facility transitions to phase 2. Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska, as physical construction phase 1 of US Strategic Command Future Command and Control Facility C2F continues. The project has begun transition to the installation of the information technology infrastructure phase 2. She's also done a 2-hour space talking about this. I haven't had a chance to listen to this yet. And she's basically just kind of now reposting a few things relating to this stuff. She says she's done about 5 hours in spaces already and is planning to do a late night one in about an hour's time. So I can't see anything about that yet, so maybe I can try and catch that. She says, I heard the story about the country that lost a fighter jet. I'm British and giggling because I remember teasing my US friends. So how about the Aussie journo who wrote a book telling us it's all in plain sight, then lost a UFO so big it could not be moved, and a British girl found it. Again, like the tone and delivery that this is being pushed forward with, to me, like there's just a little too much confidence in it. Like, you know, you're saying like, you're kind of almost like mocking one person and saying that you've got the answers when, I mean, you've got a great case, MoneyPenny. I think it's very interesting. A lot of very interesting coincidences there. I think this is worth being looked into. But I think the confidence is perhaps a little bit overstated. I mean, we're still talking about things that are highly classified and secured that we really don't know. We're just kind of speculating here. And, you know, she's reposting this stuff. Looks like that space is about to start any moment. So maybe I can go check that out after I record this. And that's basically it on MoneyPenny. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Like I said, I think there's a good chance that MoneyPenny could have found something very interesting here. I'm going to leave the link to the new fork and to her ex below, so you can scroll through her feed, check out her spaces, check out what she's put forward, and get in the comments, make your own mind up. But if I had to give you an answer on like, is this Ross Coulthart's giant UFO? I'm probably going to say no, because I really do think, based on at least what we've heard, that what Ross is talking about is something that is like a discovery, something that had been there for a long, long time. And it at some point in time was stumbled upon, and they decided this is too big to excavate and move. We're going to have to build over the top of it. The story that MoneyPenny is putting forward seems like something else, but I will say something very interesting, because given where that sighting took place and the details of the additions to this facility of Offutt Air Force Base, I think we're probably talking about secret reverse engineered technology that the United States has control of. And, you know, you guys know what I think. I think they've been using this stuff for a long, long time. And maybe even United States military isn't the right word. A breakaway civilization is a better word, but I think the breakaway civilization operates in all of these, in multiple countries. Probably my country, all the Five Eyes countries, Europe as well. Like, I think, as Stephen Greer has put it, it's a transnational organization where the CIA might just be the American branch of. But this thing is worldwide. They control, they manipulate and push their own agendas, and they have the technology to do it and do what they want and get away with it. And they make sure that whenever anyone from the lower district of society maybe happens to come up with or invent an idea that might lead to free energy extraction or a new way of like gravitic propulsion, they seem to end up like Amy Eskridge or something to that effect. They generally stop, put it that way. Kind of like The Three Body Problem, which, as we heard, is a book that is heavily recommended to be read in the upper echelons of the government and military, because there might be something to it. So guys, thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed the video today. I am interested to see what you guys think about MoneyPenny. Like I said, it'll all be linked below. So go and take a look, maybe check out her spaces, and then get in the comments and let me know what you guys think, because I think this is something different, but it's equally as interesting. So guys, if you want to support the channel, just give the video a like, share it. You can also buy me a coffee as well, or become a member and get access to extra members only content. But I just appreciate you being here. Thank you, be good, be kind, make sure you're touching grass, and I'll see you next time.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light. In our galaxy, everything, because everything is in balance, everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.